Oh, look at that. We went live faster than I thought. Very professional.
Yeah, it's good.
Good afternoon or good morning if you're in America. My name is Del Rodriguez, and this is a Flabonga Monthrothacube. And with me today, I have Jemma Fairclough-Haynes.
Very good. I was waiting for the fair clow, yeah, you did it good. Good.
There was a young man in my school whose last name was Fairclough,
Fair clough.
so I'm aware of the
Yeah.
pronunciation.
It's clough, not like rough, not
Yeah.
clow like how.
I mean, but OUGH, you know this already, like there's 8 to 9 different ways of saying it.
Yeah,
Like
pretty
hiccup,
much.
the original spelling, hiccup,
Yeah.
OUGH.
Yeah.
Madness. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Finally
Just so
on
you
the
know,
in the hot seat.
is it a hot seat? I mean, there's only like
No.
3 people that watch this: me, my mum, my cat, and occasionally Raquel Flores. Is she on there? Oh, Laura Young. Laura Young's here. Hey, Laura, how's it going?
Hey.
Thanks for saying hey. Um, all right. Let's go. Let's get started. First of all, you are the founder, owner, CEO of Orchard Employment Law.
All of the above.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Is there a difference between an employment law specialist and an HR director? Like, if you work in HR, do you have to have some legal qualifications, or do you
No.
not? Okay.
So there is a difference. Both are equally valuable, is what I would say. If you've got an HR specialist, that's valuable, and an employment law specialist is valuable, actually. So, like, we work with some organisations who have a whole HR department, which obviously includes some HR specialists, but they need more expertise and more of the employment law specialist. To think about it like a GP consultant, so generalist,
Mhm.
or you go a bit deeper. So you're
So,
more aware of the changes that are happening in the legal side of things.
you're the a little bit deeper, the layer underneath.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because again, sometimes when you're in your role, you don't necessarily have time to do all the CPD. Like I know with
yeah.
HR, similar to accounting, you have to do continuous professional development, but you can't
Hmm.
always find the time to do it because you're doing your job. So that's
You're
where you
doing
kind
your
of come
job,
in to support.
and employment law and tax law, we're in a race to be the fastest changing law in the UK. It changes from one year to the other.
Yeah.
Every time we get a new government administration, that happens a fair bit at the moment. So one of the
Okay.
first things they want to
That's
put their stamp on is employment law. So, or taxation.
okay. HR for some people can be. We'll go back to taxes later. Don't worry. We'll
Yeah.
get there. We'll get there. We're going to accountancy.
Mhm.
It can be a triggering word for some people, and it does, as I mentioned in my post, have a
Mhm.
negative stereotype. In your opinion, do you know why HR might have a negative stereotype? And I'll give an example. Some people say things like HR is not for you, it's for the company, which is not true, but do you know why that might be the case, or in your experience, why people
I
feel
mean,
that way
is that
towards
not
HR?
true though? I think so. HR is there to make sure that laws are being followed, that people are be treated fairly, that you're able to have good organizational development, learning and development, all of those things. But the truth is, most of the people who are working in HR work for the company, and so I can see why an employee might feel like they're biased. But I have to say, and I'm in touch with loads of HR um, specialists, generalists, workers, they all really care about people most of the time. They care about people. And so actually they want to do the right thing. But they are the person that you would see doing the hiring, the firing. So they get the brunt of it.
I could imagine. And it's usually
Mm,
not their decision. They do it because they've got the training to do so
yeah.
and the legal
To do
proficiency
it
to do it in the right
properly.
way.
Exactly.
Yeah,
They've got
yeah.
the training to do it properly. But you see them walk in and sometimes people feel like it's the Grim Reaper, you know?
Unfortunately so. And if I'm
Mm,
understanding correctly, the only experience I have of HR in America, which you may not be an expert in, is it's completely different. They don't have the same rules that we have. Am I correct? Like
yeah. Well, they
it's
wouldn't have the same rules because it's a different um, jurisdiction, so they've got different laws. So even in Europe, they've got different laws. In Australia, they've got different laws. So HR will vary depending on where you go in the world. And America, I mean, you've only got to think about when Twitter was taken over
mm,
and Elon decided to just be like, yeah, you're all fired. If you can't get into
right.
your emails,
You
if
can't do
you,
that here, right?
you
You can't do
can't
that
do
here.
that here. Yeah.
Good, good.
So,
See, thank you,
that's an
HR.
example.
We appreciate you.
Oh,
You
I've
kind of
lost the
protected us from
screen.
that.
Yeah.
Um, Comment from Laura Young. Damn taxes. I mean,
Yeah.
you still have to pay them though, Laura. And we've got Giles Stead from Australia, by the way. So he's like, it's probably tomorrow for him. Tax, fine for being too poor for a dodgy accountant. You're not a dodgy accountant, you're a very good one. I know this, we've spoken.
Oh.
Okay, really important thing. Switching gears, by the way.
Yeah,
There is a fruit that is yellow and curved that's not a banana, but bigger than banana.
it's a
How
plantain. And there's
you
no
know it's
other
going
way
to
to
go with?
say it. It's plantain like
I
mountain.
mean, because some people say
No,
plantain.
no, no, no. I mean, you can call it what you like, but it is a plantain like mountain. How do you say it, Del? See if we can still be
Plantain.
friends. Okay, good.
Plantain. Because I'm of Jamaican descent.
Yeah,
So
because that's how
I know
it's said.
some of my Nigerian brothers and sisters will say plantain.
I know. I mean, we love them all the same, but it is
Yeah,
plantain. I'm also of Jamaican descent, but it's still
there we go.
plantain.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this could segue into background growing up, dumplings versus Johnny cakes, and other such things. And we might
Oh,
get back to that.
yeah.
Okay, if you were gonna recommend specifically Jamaican, not Caribbean cuisine, because there's a difference. People forget that. Some Jamaican cuisine to a first timer, what dish would you recommend?
A first timer.
First time they've never had
Hmm.
any kind of seasoning.
Okay.
What would you recommend?
So we're gonna go for a brown stew. A brown
Brown
stew,
stew.
either
Okay.
chicken or fish. I'm a pescatarian, so I don't eat chicken anymore. But I'd go for a brown stew because it's got all the flavour
Yeah.
and enough punch that you could still, you know, breathe afterwards. With some macaroni cheese, even though I don't eat cheese, as you know, but we're known for macaroni cheese. And I think it's got to be rice and peas, no white rice around here.
I mean, just first of all, I'm not actually a huge fan of rice and peas, which might instantly out me from the community.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
Mm.
Um, like I'll eat it and it's delicious, but for me, the amount of time and effort it takes to make rice and peas, proper rice and peas, I'm just like, just want some rice. I can cook rice in 20 minutes,
I know,
as
but
opposed to the
I've got
four
parents.
hours, not including soaking of the beans.
Yeah.
Giles actually asked a really good question. He's asked, "You'll have to start by telling us what both dumplings and Johnny cakes are." Um, in my understanding, they're both actually dumplings, to
It's
be
the same
honest.
thing,
It's the
really,
same
isn't it? It's
thing.
a different name.
Yeah.
So it is. How would you describe it? It's a okay. So we're talking about fried dumplings because dumplings come in
Yes.
various different varieties, and we have boiled ones that's a
Yeah.
bit more like a suet that you would get in a stew, and then we have the fried ones, which are more like I don't know how else to describe it.
A hard scone, a hard scone. I don't know. Like it's
Yeah,
that's what I can quite.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, the ones I eat are not hard on the
No,
inside,
but on the outside, they're crusty
on
on
the
the outside and
outside
they're fluffy
there,
on the inside.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
fluffy on the in. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like a bread
Kind of like an
basically.
American biscuit. If you ever had an American
Yes, like
biscuit,
an American
kind of like
biscuit.
that, but not the
Yeah.
same, but kind of like that. Right.
So that's what it is. But they've got
Mm.
different names. So a fried dumpling is what is known. It's known as colloquially by the masses, and Johnny cake, I guess, is a more and just another name for it.
See, I always thought, like in my head, and maybe this is my family doing some crazy stuff. Johnny cake was always like the sweet version. Like you could put like cinnamon and stuff and apple in it, and it's Johnny
No,
cake.
that's a
And then fried dumpling, you
festival.
have, there we go. See,
Yeah, a festival is a sweet version, often rolled oblong rather than either round or flat, and that has got cinnamon and brown sugar in it. Festival's
yeah,
also very nice.
they are
Yeah.
delicious.
Mm, yeah.
Back in the day, because I'm old enough to remember my first job, HR was not called HR. It was called personnel.
Yeah.
Why? Do
I
you know
don't
why it
I
may have
I don't
changed?
know why they changed that, to be honest with you. I saw that on the question, I was like, "I don't even know that." The
Okay.
answer to that question. I don't know, but I know there was a shift. There was a shift as well where it was called human resources, and then they
Mm.
said you can no longer call it human resources. It's now HR.
Oh, I did
So
not know that.
yeah, I don't know why they did that specifically. Political correctness, I would imagine.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I personally am a little bit too tired of certain political correctness, but that's just me.
Could go with the flow, though, haven't you? Really, that's what they're calling it. That's what they're calling it.
I mean, I might be going too deep, or I might be going to cancel culture right now. But I often find that I am labeled things other people tell me I'm labeled stuff. Like I didn't know
Mm.
I was BAME or POC until someone else told me I was BAME or POC. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, they don't use that term BAME anymore now. That's
I
how
lose, I
quickly
lose,
things go in and out.
I lose track. I lose
Yeah.
track. Um,
Yeah.
okay,
Uh,
Giles jumping in. It used to be PR over here a long time ago. like
Oh.
the 90s. Yes, Giles, we're old, all right? It is what it
Where's over
is.
here? Where are you, Charles?
I
Where's
think he's in
Charles?
Australia.
Oh, I see. Mm.
Mm, mm,
Incidentally, so Australian employment law and UK employment law is quite similar, obviously because it was a colony, and
yeah,
so we actually have a lot of similar laws in the over in Australia as we do in the UK.
fun fact. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, back to business real quick. If I am a small to medium-sized business, at what point would you recommend having an internal HR team or working with someone like yourself, like an HR legal specialist?
Okay, so working with someone like myself, I would say immediately as you start to think about working with other people. I
Okay,
think
fair
that's
enough.
not a
Yeah.
sales plug. This is honestly
No,
the
no, no.
truth. Actually, if you get, like most things, if you get your foundations in straight away,
Yep.
then everything's going to be better for you. And working with an organization like ours means that you can just get us to do one bit of work. You don't have to sign us up for months and months and months. You can just be like, I'm taking on somebody because I have a contract. And that's quite important. That's your legal requirement to
Yep.
have one by day one. So
Mm,
the moment you're going to take on somebody, even if you're taking on someone who is self-employed, I
mm,
say so no, I shouldn't do that really, because they might really genuinely be self-employed. Then again, they might not. You might think they're self-employed and they're not. Again, you need to speak to somebody, find out what you can and can't do to keep them self-employed, and also to make sure that you have the relevant documentation in place. Other than that, you'll be fine for a little while longer.
Pardon
Um,
my ignorance. Is that stuff to do with things like IR35 and contractors and such,
Yes and
or
no.
not?
So tax law and employment law don't always marry, because that's clearly that would be the sensible thing to do. So they don't always marry. But it's not just about IR35, which for people who are watching and listening is about whether someone's a genuine self-employed person and and how they should be taxed. But for employment law purposes, so think Uber, for instance. Uber used to
Mm,
tell all their drivers you're self-employed, so that
mm,
the reason being is they didn't want to pay taxes, they didn't want to pay holiday pay,
mm,
I didn't want to give them all of those benefits that you get with being an employee.
mm,
And they were wrong. Actually, they challenged it. They took it to an employment tribunal, and the judge said they are um, not self-employed. They're not employees either. They're actually a worker. But what that means is they were entitled to holiday pay. They were entitled to and be paid PAYE, for instance. So it does give you some other benefits.
okay.
Um, yeah. So that's why I'd
Thank you.
say straight away take advice.
Thank you for
But
explaining that because that's really helpful. And sorry, I interrupted you. I'm
that's
really
good.
quiet now. Just
That's all right. I can talk a lot. That's the thing. It's the Midlander in me. So the other thing is, in terms of having somebody internal, I think when you start to get like 10 members of staff, that's when you
okay.
definitely need somebody either internal or an organization that you can call on as and when you need to. That's when you get a mix of personalities. It's probably when you're going to start putting in layers of management. It's probably when the company's going to start growing and changing in culture. So think
Mm-hmm.
about it. If it's just me and you working together, Dale, everything's
Yeah.
quite relaxed. And then you get someone else come in and someone else come in. And then you start thinking, this is no longer as easy as it used to be.
Would it be relaxed if you and I work together? Because we are two very different personality types.
I mean, I would say I'm very easy to work with.
You have to be. You work in HR. Like if you aren't a people person and you work in HR, get
I
out.
mean,
No, it's your
to
one
be
job. It's one of
fair,
your jobs to be personable. It's kind of like very
yeah.
important.
uh,
Sorry.
yeah. So, I think it probably would be easy because I could be more flexible because it's just myself and you. But when you've got, 10 people in and you've got middle management and you have to consider how that works with everybody else, then
Mm.
that's when things start getting a bit tricky.
Can I ask you a question that's just popped into my head? So you're slightly unprepared. There's a lot of talk about parents getting preferential treatment for holiday. Is that fair? Not fair? Do you have any opinions? Or is that too vague of a question?
Okay. So I think I know where you're getting at because I'm kind of psychic. Not really, but I'm used to deciphering my clients' questions.
Mm,
So some people think that parents will always get the first dibs on summer holidays and Christmas and
mm,
Easter breaks, basically the times when children are not at school. And that might be true of some organisations, but most organisations don't do it like that, to be fair.
mm,
Most of them will say things like, it's first come, first served, or if you had Christmas off last year, then you don't get Christmas off next year unless nobody wants it.
mm. That seems fair.
Yeah.
I agree. Sorry, just gonna jump into the comments real quick. So Randy
Mm.
House from America, he's making an appearance. He's just saying hello. Thanks,
Hiya.
Randy, for taking the time to watch. Laura came in with a question. Hopefully, it's not too late and it makes sense. What do you suggest for collaboration? So, working with you, not for you. Ah,
What do you
that's a
mean,
good
Laura? Do you
question.
mean for me specifically, or as a business? Okay, so I'm gonna take that from two angles. So
Hmm,
as a business, so a good example is lots of small businesses or sole traders will work with a virtual assistant.
hmm,
Okay, so the virtual assistant has their own business, and you would have your own business, Laura, and they would work with you, not for you.
hmm,
Fantastic. You still need an agreement in place, though. You still need to make sure that 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 what you've set out to be and do is written down somewhere. But in that agreement, it could be a text message. I'm being honest with you. I like bits of paper, but it could be a text message. It could be WhatsApp. Whatever's written down can be binding. Now, if you mean in terms of having somebody who's either an HR specialist or an employment law specialist or both, again, you can have somebody internally, and I'd say maybe wait till you get a bit bigger, till you've got about 10 members of staff or so. Or alternatively, as I say, you could work with an organization like ours, and we would work with you, not for you. I hope that answers your question.
I think that was a fantastic
Yeah.
answer. I mean, I'm biased. You're my guest. I'm going to brown nose you the whole time. So, it is what it is. Again, Laura coming in the comments again, back to parental support. Being a mum myself, I don't always get the time I want, so no preference to us, no preference to us parents, which I think is reasonable,
Mm,
right? Um,
yeah.
I know. I'm sorry, I'm asking controversial questions on purpose.
No,
Um,
they're the questions people want answers to, so it's good.
okay. What does TUPE mean? TUPE.
I mean, we need a whole show for that, Dale. Briefly speaking,
You
it
can come back, by the
stands
way, if you want.
for
That's
no,
fine.
it's yeah, oh yeah, well I can. So it stands for Transfer Undertaking Protection of Employment, which in normal speak means if one business transfers to another business, so if
Mm,
your business gets bought by another business, your rights as an employee are protected for at least 12 months. That's what it means. That's what it's there for. And it's a really complicated area of legislation. Um, Most people need an employment law specialist to translate that. There are things that you have to do when you're buying or selling a business because the obligations are both on the person or the people selling the business and on the people coming into the business. And although you do have some protections as an employee to have the same rights or better for at least 12 months, there are some instances in which that can change. That's if there is an economical, technical, or organizational reason, and we call that an ETO. So, if, for instance, and this is happening with one of my clients at the moment, if
mm,
they pay on the 28th of every month, they've got like 300 employees, they're buying an organization or that's got or taking on a bit of work where the organization has 5 employees and they get paid on the 15th. They don't want to run 2 payrolls, okay? They're not going to keep paying you on the 15th just because there's 5 of you and there's 300 of them. So that would be an economical and organizational reason for making that change. They're going to
yeah,
transfer your pay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I get it because it makes sense. If a company were to procure or merge with another company, bigger or small acquisition, it's a way of protecting the staff because they could just say,
Yeah.
"Oh, we want all those, we want the customer bank, we want that, we want all that stuff, all that goodwill," and they just sack everybody. That's which
Yeah, that's not.
happens
It
in
happens, but
movies.
it's not allowed. And then the other
Um,
time where 2P might occur is, and this happens a lot in cleaning businesses. So if there's any cleaning businesses that are watching and listening, you get contracts. So you might have won the tender. You might not have bought another company, but you've won the tender. Now, if
mhm,
the tender was done by another company and most of the work done by those people was for that tender, then you automatically assume those people as well. So that's another 2P situation.
okay, bringing it back to the personal. How long have you disliked cheese?
My whole life, I don't
Your
get why
whole
do people even eat
life.
mold? Like, what is that about?
Or do you eat mushrooms?
Yeah, but that's fungus. It's okay.
It's pretty much like the same thing. It's giant mold.
No, it's okay. I don't know. I don't get the cheese thing. I've never been a dairy fan. I hated having milk with my cereal. So as soon as I was old enough to say I'm not doing that, I stopped doing that.
How old were you when you said that to your parents? Respectfully.
Respectfully. Do you know what? My mum's always been a believer of choice, so she was
Okay.
fine.
Right.
My grandparents were like, "No, you need to have cereal." And I was probably about 6 when I was like, "I don't like it. It's got skin on the top," because they'd always warm the milk,
Hmm.
and then you'd have that like ugh at the top of it.
And presumably your grandparents are Jamaican, right? So
Yeah,
there's certain
yeah.
things that are just kind of that's the way we do it.
That's the way we do it. So then I got porridge instead. which was
because
equally as gross.
we discussed this before. Like I now drink coffee, but for a long time I did not drink hot drinks. And in Jamaican culture, it's like a hot drink is considered like almost medicine at times,
Medicinal. Yes.
remedy. Some of them are though, because like
Yeah.
do you remember the first time you had Siracy?
Oh my gosh. Do you know when that was? Last week. And I will not be
Oh,
doing that again.
so you never
Ever.
had it before?
No.
Should I explain what it is, or do you not want to go down there for this?
Okay. Let's explain it. Let's hear your explanation. Be good.
Siracy is also known as bitter melon,
Yeah.
is a tea slash herb that is brewed in the West Indies. It aids digestion. It's been known to help with blood sugar levels, but ultimately it's used for something called washout. And if you get you drink this stuff, it tastes. Well, actually, I kind of like the taste now that I've had it many times. But it tastes very similar to almost like a matcha tea or a green tea, very bitter. And you have it maybe like once a month, um, and it does what it says on the tin. It washes you out.
Washes you out.
Like it's
Yeah.
pretty
So
cleansing.
I had it for the first time. Yeah,
First
last
time.
week.
How did you
First
get?
time.
Wait, hang on, no, hang on. How did you get away with that? With Jamaican grandparents didn't have any of it like before. Like
I don't
obviously you can't
know.
give it to children. We know
I was
this, but
sweet
like,
and cute, so I just got away with lots of things. I was one of the youngest, so I just got away
uh,
with stuff. I don't
all
know.
right.
But yeah, somebody gave me some last week. I was given cerasee and I was given fever grass tree, which is lemongrass, and
Yep.
cerasee. Also, in Asia, it's known as karila. So if you know what karila is, that vegetable is also not very nice, in
Didn't
my
know that. Thank
opinion.
you.
So when I bought that, because my husband's Guyanese, so he was like, "Oh, it's karila," and I was like, "Either way, it's not very nice." I took one sip and I was like, "No, I'm such a baby. I am not drinking that."
And again, the switch from chicken to pescatarian. When did this happen?
Yeah.
And
So
why, if you don't mind me asking? Because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
So
intrigued.
there's no ethical or political reasons why I no longer eat meat. About 5 or 6 years ago, I went on holiday. I ate lots of fish. I've always liked fish and shellfish. When I came back to the UK, I tried to cook chicken and stuff, and it tasted a bit chemically to me. And I realized I was forcing myself to eat something I really didn't want. And so I've been pescatarian ever since.
That's fair enough. I mean, our
Mm.
chickens are, if they're not, what do you call it, free range, they are usually pumped full of stuff. So
Yeah.
could be worse. Could be American chlorinated chicken. That's
I
just
mean,
wrong,
yeah.
wrong. So when you eat out, does it make it more difficult, or would you just go for the fish option on the menu?
I just go for the fish option. And I eat all cuisines, to be honest with you. I never have a problem eating out. It's one of my favorite things to do.
And you're based in the Medway, right?
I am, yeah.
Any restaurant recommendations based on seafood availability?
I went to a fish restaurant Monday night. I've been there before. It's called Fish at 55. I think must be 55 High Street, Rochester. And they've got two menus. They've got
Hmm.
I'm going to call it British menu
Yep.
ish, which is all your different fish and shellfish. And they also have a sushi menu. So there's Sankana, I think there's the other bit that it's called. So yeah.
Cool. Cool. So Giles, if you're ever in the UK and you come to Rochester, of all places, jokes,
Yeah.
it's a nice place. Check
Rochester's
out that
very
restaurant.
pretty. Yeah, Rochester's very pretty. It's a nice place to be.
I mean,
Rochester High
again,
Street.
going back to the pre-prep, there used to be a club there called Amadeus.
Yeah, I'm a
And
dangerous. Hmm.
yeah, now I used to sneak into that club when I was younger because I wasn't old enough to get to that club. And I want to say every week that I went, something bad happened. Like something like I don't mean just like someone bumped into you and your glass got knocked over. I mean like some gangster stuff happened, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
character building things, like
Oh yeah, I learned to avoid danger at all costs. I learned,
yeah,
as your parents would say, if you mix with trouble, you might be guilty by association. So I learned
yeah,
don't be in those places real
yeah.
quick. Oh look, Zoe
Hi,
Lacey.
Zoe.
She's been on this live by the way. She was dope. She's like you. She's very
Yeah.
cool. Um, Run me again. How do you guys know each other? Because she works.
Do you know
She's
what?
worked in the accounting space for quite a while, but she's not an accountant. She's
Yeah.
like me. But like,
So I was trying to think how I think we were introduced to each other by Janice B. Gordon, who again is another fantastic businesswoman who works in the sales space. And I think she may have introduced us for me to do some speaking. And I'd
mhm.
done some talks for Accountex when Zoe was in her blue jacket. And when she moved to CPD store, she introduced me there, and I still do talks for CPD still regularly, do training for them. And Zoe's just a fantastic connector. She's a lovely person anyway, but she's a fantastic connector, as you know, knows lots of people and really gets to know you. That's what makes her such a good networker.
She confirms.
Yeah,
Zoe.
yeah, it was Janice.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was Janice B. Gordon. So I'm reading things out for people who might be listening because not everyone wants to watch our smiley faces. Boop. All right, next question. What is the business bunker? It's on your profile. What is?
You don't know what the business bunker is?
I probably do. I'm asking for people who don't know.
Where have you been?
In
so
a
the business
bunker?
bunker, clearly. So the Business Bunker radio show is hosted by Paul Andrews. You know Paul Andrews? You must know Paul Andrews. Oh, dear, I have to get you out more. Paul Andrews is a serial entrepreneur. He owns lots of businesses, some co-working spaces, Jobs in Kent, if you've ever heard of that.
Oh, I know Jobs in Kent. Okay, yeah.
And the Business Bunker radio show, which he started many moons ago before I even started in business, as a way to give Kent businesses an opportunity to put themselves on a platform. So it's available on DAB, online, all the usual things. And then there was a spin-off show called Bunker Extra, because even though it's a 2-hour show, they always run out of time. So we did an extra hour show on a Friday. I did that for, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 years. Yeah, it's good fun.
So you're like the Trevor Nelson of the Bunker crew?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
when you say extra, I think of like BBC One Extra. I think
yeah,
of like,
it wasn't quite like that, but yeah.
Tunes. All right, bringing it back to work. Dress codes in the office. Are there any particular employment laws? It can be a touchy subject for some. You know, things like dress length for women, shorts for men, flip-flops and sandals. Is there a one-size-fits-all rule or law? Can my employer impose certain things on me or not?
I mean, absolutely, they can impose things on you. I think that there is this misconception that your employer can't impose things on you. Of course they can. They can say to you, I want you to dress smart. They can say that, no ties, it's dress down Fridays. If you work in IT, they tend to wear jeans because they spend a lot of time under desks and things and they're hard wearing. And it's all about the brand, but also health and safety. So that's where you might see things like no flip-flops. Now, where employers have in the past got themselves into trouble, and there have been employment tribunal cases, one on this, is where it is unfair, disproportionate to women. So a while back, some businesses might say women should wear heels. Now, listen, I wear heels every day. And I'm a bit of a pro at it, but it doesn't come naturally to everybody.
Actually, oh no, I've tried. I've given them a go. It's really hard.
It's like walking on stilts, you know.
I busted my ankles. Like, it was terrible. How women do? I've seen women run on cobbles in heels. I'm like, you are an athlete for sure. Sorry, please continue.
Seriously, no, it's true. So, saying something like women must wear heels or makeup or something like that, that's going to be gender discrimination. So that's not allowed. But things like you must dress smartly, absolutely. You can say that. Or you've got to wear something that is a uniform. As long as the uniform's not discriminatory, why not?
Again, going one step further, and this is more subjective, I guess. When the dress code would say dress smartly, no, objective? Sorry, I get those words mixed up sometimes. It could smartly be misinterpreted, or is that someone being completely unreasonable? Right?
No, it can be misinterpreted because I think things have changed over the years where people don't always wear a 3-piece suit, for instance.
It's too hot for that. It's like 27 degrees right now.
We live in Dubai now, don't we, basically?
I'm not wearing a 3-piece suit today.
It's migrated. It can be subjective. I always say to give people some guidance. So our dress code is smart casual or business casual, and actually if you look on the internet it comes up with some images of what that looks like. And so we've got a work experience young lady in with us next week. I have sent her a picture of that. This is what is expected.
No, that's fair. And I mean, there's one thing I've learned after being married is smart casual is way easier for men.
Yeah.
Is that that's not sexist to say that, right? Like, man can rock it with some chinos and a shirt.
Chinos and a shirt.
Or chinos and a t-shirt. And
how
it's
many
kind
variations
of
chinos and a shirt could you get?
You can get, well, I have multiple coloured chinos, so
They're still chinos though. Like I could wear a skirt, I could wear trousers, I can
I
wear.
don't know. I just
I
feel
don't
like it's
know.
easier for men to look smart, casual. I can even wear some
Yeah.
smart jeans and a shirt, and it'll be all right.
Yeah, but
Um,
then some people do have a no jeans dress code.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
glad we don't have that dress code here. We might do. We might have it, and I haven't read it, and I'm breaking it off.
Yeah. They'll let you know
Um,
if you are.
I know. Giles has asked a really good question. I think he's kind of joking, but it's kind of serious. Next question: drinking code for the office. Now, I know from experience, there's been a shift in work culture. You can work for some tech-based startups, and they've got a beer fridge which you can access on a Thursday or a Friday, and then you've got other places that are more traditional where drinking will get you sacked instantly. Um,
Yeah, you should
is
come
that a
and visit
legal
us.
thing, or is it
We've got a beer tap in our office that
a
opens on a
tap?
Friday too.
It's on
Yeah,
tap.
it's on tap on Friday. On Friday, you should come and visit us down at Dragon. We're kind of a cool office, so we have those things.
I'd have to make the business case to my boss. I can't just be driving to Medway for no reason. But
Yeah, don't they have a Medway office? Like I'm
we do have a
sure.
Medway office. We've got a Chatham
Yeah,
office. Yeah,
we're
but
not too
if I
far.
suddenly appear in the Chatham office after not really being there that often, and come back after a lunch break with beer on my breath, it's kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, so we have beer taps that is available on a Friday afternoon. And even so, drinking is quite important in terms of how you manage it, and it does need to be managed. So we even think about things like Christmas parties and office parties. Sometimes when people drink more than is seen as acceptable, other behaviors come into play. So sometimes people might say you have a 2 drink minimum or drink responsibly, or even if you are drinking, just make sure you're not driving home, because that's the other thing. Although as an employer, it's not your responsibility, you still want to make sure that everybody is safe.
so that's really helpful, by the way. I'm just gonna jump into the comments real quick. So Giles making a comment on me and heels. Giles said, Flabonga spin-off series, Flabonga on the cobbles. First episode is just highlights of Dale
I
running
like
in heels. No, I don't think I understand. I could barely walk in the heels. There's no chance of me even trying to run.
running.
I would bust myself wide open, honestly. I'd hurt myself. Um, Giles, in Aussie, you need to let employees know before they come to work. They need to be able to arrange alternative transport and can't use heavier machinery. Again,
Oh,
that
yeah,
makes sense. That's a good,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, that's safety as an employer.
Mm,
Um, okay. Do you mind if I ask you a kind of a mean question?
go for it.
There are people out there, like with the belief about uh, or certain notions or beliefs about employment law. Do you think employment law is more geared towards employers or employees? So, as
It
in
is
protecting
a
employers or
hundred
employees'
percent
right?
geared towards the employees, and I can give you factual
Please do.
reasons for that.
Please do.
So, in an employment tribunal, there are 83 different types of claim that an employee can bring against an employer, either singularly or all at once. I've never
Mhm.
come across one where someone's brought 83 claims, but quite often they bring
That
two,
must have been a
three, or
really
five.
bad employer if they try and bring
Yeah.
83, right? They must have done some horrible stuff.
Well, just because your claim's brought against you doesn't mean that you're guilty
True,
of it.
true, 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 true. Sorry.
Started there. But yeah, so 83 claims. There are none that an employer can bring against an employee in an employment tribunal. So I
Really?
would say that it is
So,
weighted towards the employee.
hypothetical. Obviously, I wouldn't do this. Let's say I complain because I'm dismissed from my job, and I can use one of these 83 clauses. In the case, my employer, KR, couldn't say, "Oh, by the way, he was always late and always not doing this." Like they couldn't.
So
Does
they
that
can definitely say that as their reason as to why their dismissal was fair,
okay?
or to go towards your character as an
Right.
employee. But is it going to win them any money? No. So, I mean, that was,
Yeah.
let me say, it wasn't strictly true. The only thing that an employer might bring against you is a breach of contract claim. So, if you bring your employer to a tribunal, there is a box on the response form for the employer which says, do you want to bring a breach of contract claim? So, you're going to say, well, they didn't work their notice, or actually, I didn't pay them all their wages because they had car fines on the van, or they'd taken too much holiday, and that's why I've taken some money back. But generally speaking, it is heavily weighted towards the employees. In fact, I mean, that's what the employment laws are there for. They're there to protect employees. They're not there to protect employers.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad we had them because before
Yeah.
them it was like the Victorian era, and you had kids working in shops and people just losing their jobs left, right, and centre, and
Do you
getting sent
know?
to the
Do you
poorhouse
know
and
like
all.
the biggest shift happened in 1996?
1996.
Yeah, it's
What
not
happened
that
before?
long ago.
I was alive for that. What?
Yeah, that was the biggest shift that happened, the Employment Rights Act. So, it's still developing, it's still changing. Law is always behind the curve because it's reactive most of the time rather than proactive. We react to things that happen. So yeah.
Speaking of massive changes, Brexit. Has that had an impact on UK employment law?
Yes and no. So our current government said that they wanted to make Brexit obviously happened, and we know that that affected who could come and work in the country, how and when. So if you are a European citizen, you no longer have the free right of travel unless you applied for settled status or pre-settled status. That's a whole nother life in itself. But then they said, oh, do you know what? We're going to burn the rule book. We're going to get rid of all of the European laws. It's going to be so great. Da, 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 da. And then a couple of weeks ago, they're like, actually, most of those European laws are quite good. We're going to keep most of them. Here are a few little tidbits just to make you feel like we're doing something. So 3 things that changed that really don't make much of a difference is they said, we're going to change how you calculate what they called ordinary leave and additional leave. Makes no difference to us because in the UK we get 28 days leave, which is more than European law, which is 4 weeks leave. They said, oh, we're going to think about allowing people to do rolled up holidays. So rolled up holidays where rather than giving you the money while you're off, they will give you an additional percentage on top. So let's say you earn £10 an hour. We know that's illegal, but for argument's sake, you earn £10 an hour, but on your wage slip you get £12 and 7 pence to account for your holiday pay. That's an illegal practice because holidays are about rest rather than money. They said, oh, we're going to change that. It hasn't happened yet, but they're going to change that. They'll allow that to happen. And then the other thing as well, they said that they might allow to happen is, and this is interesting for people who are interested, is if you work in a position where you have contact with clients or your management, you might find that in your contract you've got a clause which says you can't work for competitors or you can't set up your own business being a competitor for a period of time. They're saying, we want to reduce that period of time to like 3 months, where at the moment, lots of contracts say 6 months.
Am I right in saying that's also one of those things that's quite difficult to enforce? Like, unless like you leave a company, then email your previous client and say, hey, I'm leaving the company, come work for me. Like, how is someone going to even enforce that? Or check that it happened?
It can be, and it is enforced. Make no mistake, because it's not just. So what you've described is poaching of clients, or soliciting of clients, which is different from a non-dealing. So a non-dealing is you can't work with them at all, and then you have a non-solicitation, which is you can't, as our grandparents would have said, inveigle people to come over and work with them.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I think that is kind of fair. Because you could have a disgruntled employee leave, trash the company name, and then try and take the client or customer, which is an asset. And
well, I think what that period of time does. So we always put in the contract, if they ask for this type of contract, we will do it for 6 months, which is a reasonable period of time. Gives you enough time to just give your client those extra cuddles to firm them up so that you stay with them. So example I always give is, as a woman who likes to get her hair and eyebrows done, I have a hair and eyebrow lady, and then if she moves, I'm going to go where she goes because she does my hair and eyebrows the way I like it. But if she moves and I have no choice and I get used to somebody else, I then think, I quite like her. So if I've been going to her for 3 to 6 months, she becomes my new hair and eyebrow lady.
That's cool. Like I don't cheat on my barber. I've got a barber.
But if you did have to cheat, like if your barber was in hospital for 6 months, hopefully the barber's not watching, and you had to use someone else.
I will wait.
You really?
Papa G gives me a great cut.
Oh, this is dedication.
I will wait.
You'll wait.
Also, like, let's be honest, when it comes to some of the basic stuff, not a shape up, but I can trim my own beard. And my granddad was a barber, so I can cut hair. It's not as good as someone else doing it for me, but so.
Yeah, I think the barbers have too much power. I'm just saying, this is why they're
too much power.
Because they know that
why so?
They know you don't cheat on your barber. They know this, and so you could be booking in 6 weeks in advance to have your regular 2-week trim or whatever it is.
You don't book in a barber. You just turn up.
Just turn up, yeah. Some people book in, some barbers book in, or you're sitting there all day, and they're turning your head rough, like.
I mean, you know why we're sitting there all day, right? I can't speak for every dude, but we complain about our significant others and life.
I love barbershop.
And sometimes that's where business gets done. I joke, no joke. Sometimes business gets done in the barbershop.
Yeah, that's true. I do like barbershop chat. It's an interesting experience.
There's a lot of banter.
Yeah.
Like you gotta have thick skin.
Yeah, all of which you could not do in an HR and employment law world. but
Oh no. Oh
but for the
no.
barbershop, yeah.
Yeah. Shall we leave it there, or would you either A, like to ask me some questions, or B, would you like me to ask you a final question where you can drop a nugget and truth bomb? Boom.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought about asking you some questions. You can ask me another one. Go
Okay,
for
in
it.
that case, it's going to be the final question. It is, if there's kind of one thing you'd want people to know about HR, your profession, what your business does, that might be misunderstood, or some knowledge you want to give to a startup business, what would that be? Again, I know it's a very vague and generalized question.
One thing I would want the people to know gives you peace of mind. I think some people, some organizations think we go to you in a time of crisis. And I would like to say, you come to us first, and then there'll be no crisis.
Well, you would say that. You're you.
I've got experience. Got
I'm sorry.
experience.
I just have to give one shout out before we wrap this up.
Mm.
Mark Cowison, love the shirt, Del Rodriguez, just my colors. You guys should talk at some point because the nature of his products could be considered, or the names of his product could be considered a HR minefield. I don't know. No, I'm being silly. But he does manual lifting tools for trades, construction, and riggers and that kind of stuff. And they all have really funny names, like I want to say a stiff jobby. Like
Oh,
he and I spoke. Yeah, they've got funny names.
yeah. We can have a chat. Let's have a chat, Mark.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He's technically his company are technically a sponsor of the show because he sent me some goods, so I give him a little shout out.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
selling my soul.
Yeah.
Joke's on you, I don't have one. Anyway, Gemma, thank you for joining. I
You're
hope I didn't
welcome.
undercut your seriousness with my foolish comments. Um,
No, not at all. And people don't realize, like, I'm serious about serious stuff, but I've got a sense of humor.
oh, I know. We've joked
Yeah.
about other stuff before.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me. Thank you for all people who are
Welcome.
doing the comments and asking questions. I hope they've got some value out of this. I hope they've got to know Gemma a little bit more. You should check out Orchard Employment because almost everyone in Kent knows them because they're just that damn good. So yeah,
Thanks.
I give them 2 thumbs up, and that's the most thumbs I can give because I only have two
And you have two.
thumbs.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Dale. That's been good.